Hey guys! Welcome to Mama's Boys. In this program, we will meet priests from around the globe. We will discuss interesting features of their lives, from their humble beginnings, their calling, the churches, and more. Hey guys! In this episode, we are with Archbishop Emeritus Francesco Panfilo, SDB. He was the Archbishop of Rabaul, Papua New Guinea. Let us get to know more about him up close and personal here on Mama's Boys, Mama Mary's Boys. Hi Bishop, thank you for the interview. Do you have any personal information you want to share to the public po?
Well, you just ask me questions and I will answer.
Can you tell us your name po?
I am Francesco Panfilo. I am originally from Italy, from the province of Bergamo, which became famous at the beginning of the COVID-19 because it was the place where somehow in Italy it exploded and around Europe. So I was born there almost 80 years ago. I was born on the 23rd of November 1942 in a small village on the mountains of the province of Bergamo. And I come from a big family. We were 9 boys.
Oh, wow.
And then my eldest brother died when I was 9 years old, and that year my mother was expecting. She gave birth to a girl. And so we were then 8 boys and a girl. The last one was a girl. And of these 8 boys, 4 of us became priests.
Oh.
And the other 4 got married. Also my sister got married. And yeah, so that's more or less, I would say, the background.
Are you the eldest po?
No. I am actually, I would have been the number 6 among the 10. After me, there are still 4. 4 of my 3 boys and 1 girl after me. Yeah.
If I may ask, Bishop, what's the reason why did you choose to enter the seminary or the priesthood?
Well, actually, it's a bit of a funny story too. When I was in grade 3, one of my brothers entered the seminary. Later on he became a diocesan priest, of the member of the Diocese of Bergamo. And so I was grade 3, and I told my mother that I would have liked to go to the seminary too. When I finished the elementary. And but then later on, when I was grade 4, well, I became a bit naughty. I did not like to study. By the way, the school, our elementary school, was just about 150 meters away from the house. But I did not really like to study. And I remember that the teacher came to our house one evening, and she talked to my mother, and she told my mother, if he does not change, next year he's going to fail.
Oh.
I mean, in our system, you are failing and you have to repeat. So, and I repeated. I had to repeat, but my mother at that time, on that occasion, she asked me, isn't it that you want to become a priest? So I told her, no more, no more. And
you were just elementary back
Yeah,
then?
I was just an elementary boy. Then I repeated grade 4, then I went to grade 5. In Italy at that time, there were only 5 grades, after which you were supposed to go to high school, and there were two ways. Either the what would be the vocational or technical orientation or academic. But when I finish, before finishing grade 5, I told my parents that I did not want to go to study. I did not like to continue. And I was a bit surprised because they respected. They respected my decision. My decision. Perhaps also because at that time, my grandfather was the one in charge of taking care of the church, but he was almost blind. So I was the one helping him, and I took over from him. So I became somehow the one in charge of ringing the bell and taking care of the church and this and that. And but at the same time, they started in our village a kind of a informal school. We were being those who wished to be trained as mechanics or carpentry. So they opened a kind of an informal training like that. There were many boys during our time.
It was just like the vocational school.
Yeah, the vocational school. And in our place, so many boys and girls also were not going to school. They have nothing else to do. And that was an opportunity. And so I enrolled there and as a mechanic. And so I learned how to welding, using the milling machine or the lathe or this and that. So I learned. And so, but at the same time, in the morning I was going to, let's call it school. And in the afternoon, I was going in the shop of a blacksmith, and I was helping him. And so that went on until I was 16 years old. When I was 16, during summertime, my place is on the mountain, so it's like to be like Baguio here, for nice weather. And so the Salesians of Don Bosco, their minor seminary and the major seminary too, they used to spend their summer in our village.
When we return, we will still be with Bishop Francesco. Stay tuned on Mama's Boys, Mama Mary's Boys. You are still watching Mama's Boys, Mama Mary's Boys. Please like and share our social media accounts to know more about our Mama's Boys. Back on our interview with Bishop Francesco.
The Salesians of Don Bosco, their minor seminary and the major seminary too, they used to spend their summer in our village. So, of course, I was attracted. I like to watch them play football. And one time I was watching them, I was near the goal, and a Salesian brother approached me. And he asked me if I wanted, would you like to become a Salesian brother? And I asked that the brother, he was a lay brother. We called them lay brother. And so I asked him, do Salesian brothers study? And he told me, well, some yes, some no. So I said, okay, in that case, I can become a Salesian brother who does not study. Anyway, I knew my job. I knew how to weld, I knew how to use the milling machine, the lathe. So I was expecting, so someone went to tell my father that I wanted to join them, to become. By the way, at that time, already one of my brothers was in the seminary of the Diocese of Bergamo, and another was already with the Salesians, was already joined already the Salesian. So I was waiting for my father to approach me, and after 1 week or so, finally my father approached me and he told me, what is this this issue of becoming a Salesian brother? And I told him, well, I would like to become a Salesian brother. And so my father told me, you go to near my village, there was a small parish where there was a holy man, a holy priest. We really consider him a holy priest. And my father told me, you go to talk to him. And then I'll do what he tells you. So I walked to the village, to that small village there, and there was this priest. I was a bit scared because for us he was a holy man. But you know, a holy man, you are a bit scared, a bit afraid. So I approached him and I told him, well, my father told me to come to talk to you because I would like to become a Salesian brother. And I still, up to now, I see those two eyes as if he was reading inside of me. He looked at me and to my surprise, he said, oh, I think that you want to become a Salesian brother because you do not like to study. And
he already knows.
That floored me because he could not know. I told that only to that brother who asked me whether Salesian brothers were studying or not. Not even my father, I told that. So he looked at me and then he said these words: if the Lord calls you, He'll give you the will to study. So finished. The dialogue ended. I walked home, and by walking home, I thought. And when I arrived home, my father asked me, "So what did he tell you?" I did not tell him that what he said. I told my father, I want to become a priest. And so I entered the seminary, the Salesian seminary. We call it aspirante. And my classmates were 11 years old. I was 16. And we were lining up in the morning. I was at the back. I was already quite tall then. And, but of course, very slim. And so that's it. That is how I started. And it is true what the priest said. Because since then, well, the will to study came. As a matter of fact, later on, I have always been considered it a funny coincidence, because when I was in Papua New Guinea as a bishop, I was a bishop there for 20 years, almost 20 years. And I was in charge of the education at the national level of the Catholic Bishops' Conference. And I would say, strange enough for one who did not want to study.
It's very ironic, Bishop. But what is your role or position?
I am a retired Archbishop. I am they call it Emeritus. I am the Emeritus Archbishop of Rabaul of Papua New Guinea.
How many years have you been in the ministry, Bishop?
Well, this year it will be. I will be 58 years as a Salesian, and 48 years at the end of this month, 27 of April, I will be 48 years as a priest.
Did you apply for a regency when you were still studying?
When, after high school, we entered the novitiate. It's called the novitiate. That is the most important year, practically, because that is the year where you are being formed. You come to know, you study, for example, the Salesian spirituality, Salesian constitution. So I had that year from 1963 to 1964. And I professed in 1964. Before making the first profession as a Salesian, still as a novice, we were those who wish, they would apply for the missions. So I wanted to become a missionary. And so I applied, and they accepted me to become a missionary. As a matter of fact, I was assigned to South Africa.
Oh.
That was my assignment, actually. After the novitiate, before studying philosophy, I was supposed to go to South Africa, where the year before, 2 of our young Salesians have gone to South Africa. And so me and another classmate of mine were selected also to go to South Africa. Only that during those years in South Africa, you know, there was the apartheid. The apartheid was the struggle between the black and the white. And so the church and the communists were considered the greatest enemy of the state. So in practice, although we were interviewed in the embassy of South Africa in Rome, but after 8 months they denied my visa, the entry to South Africa. So during those days, there was one Salesian that came from the Philippines, an Italian Salesian who has been a great missionary in China. As a matter of fact, they are trying to introduce the case for beatification and canonization, Father Charles Braga. He visited our seminary where I was waiting to go to South Africa, and then they denied. So he came to preach our recollection, monthly recollection. It was at the end of April, or beginning of May, I think.
When we return, we will still be with Bishop Francesco. All this and more on Mama's Boys, Mama Mary's Boys. Welcome back on Mama's Boys, Mama Mary's Boys. Don't forget to like and share our social media accounts to know more about our Mama's Boys. Back on our interview with Bishop Francesco.
And so he came to preach the recollection, and then they introduced us, me and my classmate, to him as well. These were supposed to go to South Africa. They did not give them the permit. So he asked me, do you want to go to the Philippines? And I told him, well, anywhere, provided I can be a missionary. And in 15 days, we got the visa. I arrived here on if I'm not mistaken, on the 18th or 19th of May, 1965. And I went to Canlubang, where I studied my philosophy there. And then after my philosophy, and I got a bachelor in education while in Canlubang, I had 2 years of practical training in Canlubang also. And then I studied my first year theology in UST. But that was 1970-71. And those were, you know, trouble years.
Yes.
Trouble. There were a lot of troubles. There were a lot of demonstration, and so there were a lot of strikes. The classes were not always regular, and so our superiors decided to send those of us who were from Italy they sent back to Italy, where I finished theology in Italy, and I was ordained a priest on the 27th of April, 1974. After that, I came back
to the Philippines.
To the Philippines, and I was the spiritual director in Don Bosco Makati for 3 years. And then I became director of Don Bosco Technical College of Mandaluyong for 8 years. Wow. After that, from 85 to 87, I was the novice master in Canlubang. And then from 87 to 93, I was the provincial superior of the Salesians in the Philippines. At that time, the Salesian province was only one. Now there are two provinces. There is the north and the south. But at that time it was still one. And together with the Philippines, we had also the two mission territories that were East Timor and Papua New Guinea. So for 6 years I was the provincial. During my last year as a provincial, there was the division of the province. Manila retained Papua New Guinea as a mission territory, and Cebu took East Timor as a mission territory. Then later on, okay. And then after when I finished as a provincial superior, I became rector here in the seminary for 3 years until 1993 to 96. And then I spent 1 year in the parish of Mary Help of Christians, and then I went to Papua New Guinea. 97 I went to Papua New Guinea as the provincial delegate, and there is where I met also, I think there was Father Angel, and so, and there from 1997 to 2001. In 2001, I was Saint John Paul II at that time. John Paul II made me Bishop of Alotao. And then in 2010, I was transferred to the Archdiocese of Rabaul as the Archbishop.
Bishop, why did you choose the mission life, the missionary life?
Well, I have always had a desire. I was always attracted by the missionary. When I remember even as a boy, when there were some missionaries coming, every year, as you know, every year there is the Mission Sunday in our liturgical calendar. And so I remember in our village when there was a Mission Sunday, some missionaries were coming to preach. I was always fascinated, and I wanted to. I dreamt even when I did not want to. When I was thinking of I did not want to study. I was nonetheless, I was thinking that one day I could have volunteered to go and help missionaries, perhaps as a mechanic or doing like that.
But why did you choose to become a priest? Is it a dream of yours, or?
No, well, as I said, when I was grade 3, because my brother entered, I thought I wanted, but then I put aside that. It was only after that encounter with the priest that he told me, if God calls you, He will give you the will to study. So when I was walking back home, I said, well, at this point, I want to become a priest. That's it. It started like that. And I have of course some problem and difficulties in my life as a Salesian, as a priest, but I have never had doubts about my choice, the choice that I made of becoming a priest. I think that was a wonderful call from the Lord, a real gift.
Speaking of which, Bishop, what were your challenges as a priest po?
Well, there has been many challenges as such, but when I look back, I am wondering, the Lord never leaves us alone. And there were challenges. For example, I remember, when I became rector of Don Bosco Mandaluyong, I had some problem. There were some issues, legal issues, and this and that. Which, but as I said, when you try to do the best and to answer the call of the Lord in the best way that you can, then
nothing is impossible.
Nothing is impossible with the Lord.
Tune in on the next part of our interview with Bishop Francesco. we would like to thank the following. There you have it, guys. Thank you for joining us in this episode of Mama's Boys. Hope to see you in our future episode. This has been your host, Karen Dane. Jamataray shune!